Morning, good morning. All right. Oh, I think it's already 1 p.m. over there, 12 p.m. here in the UK. So thank you everyone for joining us. We are just recording the session so that we can keep it for our records and upload it onto YouTube later on. So yeah, welcome. Thank you for joining us. To start, I'm gonna pass the word on to Marina. I'm gonna start broadcasting this on Facebook. So if you want to share it there as well, Innova Consultancy, that's the website. You can do so. All right. Go live.
Hello, can you all see my screen? That's right. Well, thank you very much for being here today. This program is being funded by our project called DIGIKOMMUNE. It is about supporting female artists, creatives online. So what do we do here at Innova? We are very much about change and support and helping everybody achieve their full potential. We have been working in this area for more than 21 years at an international level, and it always a surprise working on a global scale to realize that it doesn't matter if you're in a very small city in the Netherlands or in a big city like Mexico City. The challenges that we're facing, especially after COVID, are very, very, very similar. So what do we do at Innova Aspire is that we belong to a group sister called Innova Consultancy as well, that you know well. We are very passionate about these four main topics, that is entrepreneurship, education, employability, and well-being, very much looking at equality and supporting those groups that are not represented in the mainstream. So what is DIGIKOMMUNE about? The project came, the idea of the project came after the European Commission launched an initiative seeing how we could support more artists, especially after COVID, to make sure that they had more support in development of skills in terms of digital skills and visibility. So we put together a partnership of fantastic partners in Europe. And what we wanted to do is exactly this, what we are here today, to make sure our artists have much more visibility and that the public also could get to know more of our artists. So these are our fantastic partners in Poland, in Italy, and the Netherlands and the UK. And we brought together a lot of modules that we have been delivering, and some of you have been part of those programs about digital skills, about how to use more social media, how to maximize your income as an artist, and very much about how to bring communities of knowledge like this, artists, the public, intermediaries, to make sure that we can support each other and we can learn from each other. So we will be sharing in the chat as well the website of this program for you to be able to link more. And of course, I cannot thank enough our artists today for their generous time to be here with us and to share their experience. So thank you very much, Regina. So I'll hand over to you now.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, everyone. I just want to say that it's really cool to have a month dedicated to art and female voices, especially in the frame of the International Women's Day. So thank you all for being here. Thank you, Michalina, and thank you, Andrea, for accepting the invitation to join us and to share with us a little bit of your path, a little bit of your knowledge, your experience, and how you express yourself through your creations, right? So first, I'm gonna introduce Andrea. Well, this is Andrea. She is a Romanian artist behind the project Andraws Art. Andrea is based in the Netherlands, and she's an architect. She's a watercolor artist, which you will see just now. And she's also a teacher who creates one-on-one kind of watercolor paintings. So I'm gonna give the space to Andrea for her to share with us her background, a little bit of her work, and where you can find her if you are interested in developing that creative side of you as well. So Andrea, the space is yours.
Yes, thank you so much. Well, thank you for joining me today. My name is Andrea. I come from Romania, but I've been living in the Netherlands for the past 5 years now. In April, it's gonna be 5 years, so yeah, quite a bit of time. I studied architecture. I wanted to become an architect since I was a kid, pretty much. And I studied architecture and I finished school. And then I decided to come to the Netherlands to work as an architect, at least in the first 2 years before getting my registration. It's to be like a full architect. So I came to the Netherlands, I started working, then I realized that I actually don't like to work for someone else so much. I realized this pretty quickly. But I did get registered as an architect, so my plan was to come back to Romania and start my own practice. But well, life happened and I stayed in the Netherlands. I met my boyfriend, and I was in Rotterdam before, but then I moved to Eindhoven exactly when Corona hit, so in March 2020. And that was also the moment I quit my job. So I quit my job as an architect and I started painting full time. It was a bit of a crazy idea in the beginning, but I had a lot of support from my boyfriend, from my family. So the transition was quite smooth. And that was also the time in 2020, summer of 2020, actually, when I also started teaching watercolor to other people. First in person in Eindhoven. In the summer, the restrictions were a bit more relaxed. So I started teaching in Eindhoven, and then I quickly switched to online because it was kind of the only way to do it. And I'm currently, yes, I'm doing quite a lot of things. I'm also doing custom painting. So people come to me saying that they want the portrait of their family or themselves or friends or pets. I also paint animals or architecture, like cities or yes, homes. People want to paint, to have their home painted. So I also do this kind of projects, and now I think maybe except Antarctica, my paintings can be found on all continents, which is which is quite cool. Yes, if you want, I can show you a bit of my work. I can share my screen. Let's see.
Thank you.
Because I've been talking a lot, but I want you to actually see what I'm doing.
Yes. How do you learn how to watercolor?
Yeah, I'm a self-taught artist. So I actually started in 2017, right after I finished university.
Mm-hmm.
I just, I think I was on Instagram and I was just, scrolling. And then I saw an artist. His name is Dominic Baylor. I'm not sure if I pronounced it correctly. He's Swiss. And he paints people in a very unique, one-of-a-kind way. I really liked it. I don't know what it was, this kind of click in my mind. I was like, oh, this is so cool. I want to be able to do that. So the next day I went to the art supply shop. I bought watercolors, paper. Of course, I didn't really know what to choose. I bought something that was like not professional, but also quite fancy things. And then I started painting on my own. I started kind of studying other artists, like understanding how they do it, watch some videos, and then I really liked it, so I painted more and more.
So are you living off art right now? Is that like, do you ever think that you were going to get to this point of actually like living from making art, or especially because your training was as something else, right? As you say, you're a self-taught artist.
Yes. Well, when I moved to Eindhoven, I didn't think about teaching other people, because in my mind I was like, I don't know how to teach other people. I don't know how to do it. And when I moved to Eindhoven, I was really lucky to meet a community of girls, international creative women, and they saw my artworks, and I said, hey, we have this nice spot in Eindhoven, you should host workshops. I was a bit like, okay, let's try. And actually in my first workshop was already full. There were 10 people, which was the maximum at that time. And I was expecting like 3 people, 4 people. And then I called my mother, who's a teacher, like a bit desperate. Mom, what do I do now? I have 10 people. I don't know how to deal with it. And yeah, she calmed me down and said, yeah, it's okay, it's gonna be fine. And it was very good. So yeah, I really liked teaching. That's why I continue doing it. Yeah, so teaching is part of my creative business, but it's not just that. I also do, yes, commissions, and I also sell prints of my paintings.
Was it
So
hard to start like with a business from it? Because also one of the aims of the project is actually supporting women who are trying to make a living of art and creating their own businesses. Do you find any challenges because to actually set up your like business infrastructure? Because I don't know. First, I'm guessing you need to get people to know you, right? Then how can they access your work? So I don't know if you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, this is actually quite, this is the most difficult part, getting your work in front of more people, because there are many, nowadays it's so easy to just go online, share your work, so the space is very, very crowded, so it's very hard to stand out, right? So people can get to know you. But I started doing it already in 2017. So pretty much when I started, I was just showing a bit of my work on Instagram. It's very, yeah, in a shy way, right? Because I was just starting out. And soon after that, like some friends started asking me, hey, can you make this portrait for me? Can you paint my dog? Can you paint my sister? This kind of small gigs. And then I got more confident in myself. I said, okay, people want, even if they're my friends, but they're willing to, yeah, to come to me and ask for this kind of thing. So I got a bit more confident. And then I started posting more and more. And actually, by the time I quit my job, I was already making some money with my paintings, pretty much. It was just, of course, just a side thing that I was doing after work. But it was going pretty well. So that also gave me a bit of confidence to quit my job and start focusing on that, because then I would have more time to grow this creative business. So
I think you're everyone's idol. You know, we all have like our passions on the side, and we all want to like have that courage to say, you know what, I'm going to invest in myself, and I'm going to believe in me, and I'm going to actually like make an effort to make this grow. So, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Andreea, I have a question for you. You were saying that you were, you know, an architect, you trained as an architect, and then you decided to follow your passion. When I speak to a lot of artists, they have that challenge, right? That they are, how would they let go of one identity to become a new identity? How was that transition for you to say, you know what, I know that architect sounds grand and an investment, and I'm starting with something that I don't have enough funding. How was that transition, and what advice would you give to other people based on your own story?
Yes, I think I was a very lucky, I was in a very lucky situation, because I took this decision that I want to be with my boyfriend in the Netherlands. So that was a decision I took. I'm happy with it. And then I took everything step by step. This was the first thing. I realized, okay, I want this. Then the second thing was, okay, do I keep my job as an architect, a foreign architect in the Netherlands, or follow my path as an artist? Of course, each option has pros and cons, but as a foreign architect in the Netherlands is not really great. I mean, it's hard to get permanent contracts. There are just too many architects for the number of jobs. And also with Corona, many people because everything was frozen, they were not building anymore. Then you don't need architects. So many people lost their jobs. So now I'm young, I can afford looking for other jobs in 6 months or 1 year, but if I want to start a family, or if I want to have more things more settled, I don't want to be in this position. It's also very long hours as an architect. So yeah, if I could do something on my own, then it would have been better. But as an employee in a company, I didn't like the idea. And then the other thing is that my boyfriend, he also supported me. Both mentally, like psychologically, how to say, but also financially, of course, in the beginning. So I was lucky to afford to do that. So that's why for me it was a pretty easy decision. What was a bit more hard, I think it was the part that, okay, I worked so much to to become an architect. Also, before going to university, we had to take like drawing classes, a lot of classes, and a lot of time spent for, in the end, to just switch to something completely different. So it was more this idea that I wasted so much time for something that I'm not doing now. I think that was the hardest part for
But
me.
would you say that being an architect, just what you are doing, it's a natural progression, right? It gave you a lot of the basis of what you are doing in terms of your art. So it's something...
for sure. I keep saying this to myself very often, but I think it's also, maybe if I wouldn't have studied architecture, I would have discovered watercolors earlier, I would have had a fastest growth as an artist. But this is something that happened, and I don't regret it. I learned a lot, and it was it's a hard university. It's not something you just go through. So it also, I also learned how to work, right? How to be also more efficient, and how to work, how to put effort into things. So I think that's a very good thing to learn.
The final question I have for you, because I've been following you on LinkedIn, and I can see you have a really good response on LinkedIn. And I think a lot of our artists also want to learn about how to use social media better. So when do you start LinkedIn, and how do you think about the post to put, what paintings to put there? Because I can see you get a really good response there.
Yes, actually LinkedIn is something I started a bit more recent for my work. Well, I had my LinkedIn profile for architecture and this kind of more, let's say, professional things. But then I switched quite recently to be focused more on the painting stuff, because I want to, as I said, I'm hosting workshops, and what I want to do now is reach companies to host workshops for companies. And of course, companies are on LinkedIn. So now I want to, also my language, the way I talked on LinkedIn is a bit different than what I do on Instagram. So I'm still learning this part. So I'm still in the, trying different things to see what works better.
Yeah, thank you. If you want to show us maybe a little bit of your work, because I know that people are saying that
yes.
just by this little shot, they are really
yes
into your work.
Yes, exactly. So as I said, I have quite a lot of I paint many things, many subjects, and I started with florals. I think everybody starts with florals and people and animals. So this is, let's say, from my I painted this mostly 1-2 years ago, and they were quite well received, I think, especially for beginners. I do a lot of workshops with animals. People like painting animals. It's also something easier to start with. And I also use, like, my style is very, I use a lot of these splashes, which are, it's a more unique style, and people like painting with splashes. It's just fun. It's a lot of fun, and people like it during workshops. but now I started focusing more on the cityscapes. Well, I have different reasons for this. First is that I feel like I can put into practice my skills as an architect, and it's something I really like, drawing architecture. And now also my style changed quite a bit. So if I go down a bit, these are my older paintings. So let me see, like I painted quite a lot of cities, so different cityscapes from different cities around the world. For instance, this one is in Madrid, so I always like to kind of catch the colors and the feeling of a city. And these are actually paintings I made in collaboration with photographers. So I had a project where I received photos from different cities around the world, photos taken by photographers, and they sent me their photos, and then I transformed them into watercolor. So it was not just my work; the photo also really helped a lot. So I'm really I'm really happy for this mini project. But now my style is changing very. Yeah, I think it's normal to go through different phases of artistic phases. And I used to paint more, like using more white space and more of these splashes. But now I have the feeling, if you look at my newest paintings, for instance, here more on top, they are a bit more tamed. They still have this loose style, but they're a bit more controlled. And this is what I'm actually working on at the moment. I want to get better at what I'm doing. I'm also following other artists, and I try to go to attend their workshops as often as I can to learn from different artists. I think if you evolve much faster if you listen to other people and see how they do things, because it's years of experience they have, and then they just share, and then you can just take, let's say, the final result and apply it on your work. So for me this helps. Yes, and now I'm doing I want to continue developing this collection with Dutch landmarks, because, well, I live in the Netherlands, people here like artworks, and yeah, I want to offer more options for them. So either as prints, postcards, or of course original art. And yeah, and I also started working on bigger paintings. Usually these ones that you see here are quite small like A3 tops. And now I'm working on different pieces, also with cityscapes, but larger, because I want to have a collection that I can also exhibit in the future in galleries or just some exhibitions.
I was going to say, I was going to ask why cityscapes, and then I remember that you're obviously an architect.
Yes.
And I think that slips through your work, right? And how you found a way of still do something that you like, but through a different, like, channeling differently and still making a living out of it. So,
yes. Yeah. So this is, of course, is because this is my background, but now it's just, well, I'm still in a honeymoon phase with my business, but I also have to think, of course, about the financial part. And the cityscapes also sell better than animals, for instance. People want to buy, if they are from Madrid, they want to buy a painting of Madrid better than they want to buy a painting of a lion or I don't know, anything else. So
do you have any upcoming workshops in the Netherlands, just for the people joining us, maybe if they can attend?
Yes, I don't have all of them here because I'm actually planning them this week. I'm still in discussions. These are a few workshops for another community of women, Girl Guy International. I don't know if you've heard about it. They're everywhere in the world. And I'm gonna have another one on Sunday, 23rd Eindhoven when we are going to paint animals. And I'm gonna have also one in May in Germany, in Köln. And now I'm also, it's gonna be another one in Amersfoort. I don't remember the exact date. I have to check. 6th of May. It's before the one in Germany. So it's Saturday, 6th of May, and I'm also going to have one in Antwerp, in Belgium. And
all right, so you're gonna be moving in the upcoming months.
Yeah, that's my dream.
Around.
To travel and paint. Yeah, that's my ultimate dream to be known enough to be able to travel to different places and share my knowledge with other people.
Well, thank you so much for sharing right now. At the end of the session, we're going to have a round of questions and answers for anyone there with a query for Andrea. Right now, I would like to introduce Michalina, who's our other creative joining us today. If you can just stop sharing your screen, Andrea, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We also, just before I forget, we dropped on the chat, Andrea's LinkedIn account, if you want to follow her, and her website as well. So yeah, just to be pendant on what you're coming with. So thank you for sharing. I'm going to introduce now Michalina, who is with Sheffield here with us. Michalina is a creative video editor and photographer. She has a passion for taking her photography beyond the studio, capturing events and person-centric branding. As a video editor, Michalina is committed to bringing impactful stories to life through short films. So we're gonna delve into a more technological side of creation, and the space is here, Michalina, to share. Thank you.
Hi,
thank you for joining us.
Just share the screen and let's hope I do it correctly. Okay, can everybody see just the slides? Or
Yeah.
is it the full screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm Michalina. Hi, I'm a video editor and photographer, as Regina mentioned. I've been doing it for 4 years now, which is a little crazy to me because when did the time go? I actually started in 2019, so a year before the pandemic. So when the pandemic started, I was only like freshly 1 year into my freelancing as a creative. And similarly to Andrea, I found out that I'm not employable as a full-time employee because I hate that. I just can't do it. I work in my own time and I just can't do it. It's just not the way I work. So I decided very early on that I'm just going to have to try and make it on my own. And somehow now we're 4 years in. And yeah, I'm just going to show you a little bit of my work and then get into a bit more of the stuff that I do. So this is one of the short films I edited in the last couple of years. That was extremely fun, extremely women-centric as well. The team was mostly women. And it's just one of the things that I'm proud of that I did. I actually don't know where you can watch this. I know where you can watch the trailer on flygirlfilms.com, but I actually don't know if the films are available anywhere else just because of the nature of short films. Sometimes they kind of keep them a bit private to show at festivals and stuff like that. But that was one of the films I did. The next one I'm editing at the moment, which I think is going to be kind of a bit of a star of my portfolio of moving forward, is Hugo, which is a very moving story about loss and finding yourself after grief. And we get a great performance from Siobhan Finneran, which is such an honor to work on a movie with her. And again, this was women working with women. Obviously there were men working there as well, but it was very focused on bringing women creatives to light and to give them opportunity that they don't often get in this industry, because it's so unfortunately packed and it's quite hard to push through, which I'll talk a bit later on. Another project I worked on was Galawa. This was for Sky Arts. This was an incredible project I assisted on, which was like a week-long live event, which was a mix of live and pre-recorded, and it was just very hectic, very crazy. I managed so many things, but I felt very accomplished from that project, which was extremely fun. And that one you can actually check out on galwad.com. And I highly recommend you do, because there's so much material on there. And it honestly is an incredible project. And I'm very proud to have been working on that. And then some of my photography, there's not much to say about that, but I really enjoy doing photography. And I'm trying to push that more into my work right now, because I really miss doing it as much as I used to do. So I do lots of events, lots of person-centric branding, like you can see in the middle bottom picture. I kind of take stuff out in the world. I don't have a studio, but I also don't really want to have a studio, because I really enjoy that kind of candidness of live and candidness of capturing moments. Like that picture on the bottom right is actually, I think, my most favorite picture I've ever taken, and just captures this kind of like joyful moment that is just like a split second and you miss it. And honestly, I think I took that like almost 4 years ago now, but it's still one of it's my favorite picture I've ever taken, just because of that split second of joy that you can't really capture that in a studio. And that's why I enjoy taking my camera outside of it. And I want to do more and more of that moving
Where
forward.
was that picture?
Oh, it's the one at the bottom. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, but where do you take it? What was happening?
This was at an event in Doncaster. It was a theater performance space. And this was just before people were getting ready to go inside and just kind of enjoying themselves outside. I don't know what happened there. I don't know if she saw somebody that she liked or what happened. She just for a split second had that joy on her face, and I managed to capture that, and that's all I know. But it was just like a theater event, and that was just before everybody was going inside. So what inspired me to get into the creative world? I fell into it through the internships that I did in high school, and just kind of fell in love with that creative process of working with video and editing as well. That was much more of that of editing in that space at the moment. And then like I kind of just did my own thing. I took a gap year because I didn't know what I wanted to do exactly between high school and university. And the more I kind of narrowed down everything that I wanted to do, I was like just falling more and more into the film part of it. And I've always been very multi-passionate, but I couldn't quite figure out how to join all these spaces together, and film kind of allowed me to do all of that and explore all of the different aspects, because it's so multifaceted. There's so many roles within it, but at the end of the day, you've got such an amazing product and an expression at the end of that. And that's where I found I can best explore my skills, and the camera kind of became my favorite. Some industry challenges I found during the course of the 4 years, definitely sexism. Unfortunately, I had to take a year out from being in the industry, because I just needed a bit of like autonomy year where I felt like the industry people didn't really have a power over me, which was very disappointing, sadly. But I took a year out to feel a bit more like I am my own person. I have control of my own career. And that really helped, and I've kind of come back and brave enough to go back to doing my own thing and not really caring about what's happening out there. But unfortunately, very often I've come across situations where I'm trying to do a good job and be friendly and polite, but I don't know if it gets misconstrued, which I shouldn't even be worrying about. But as the thing, like when you're in the industry, you're worrying about whether your niceness gets misconstrued as flirting or being too friendly. And then it just gets very complicated. And when you put a boundary in, you kind of lose jobs, because when you're not entertaining,
you have a bad attitude, right? When you set boundaries.
Yeah, I mean,
it
it's
comes
not even that. It's just that like when I don't respond to advances, it kind of then goes quiet completely. And then it's like, oh, we have a job for you. And then like they try to text me in the evenings and sending me weird things. And I just like don't respond at all. And then suddenly there's no job opportunity anymore, because you've not, entertained their behavior. And it's very depressing. And I've lost a few jobs because of that. And it's hard to get, it's hard because film industry, it's all networking, all of the art stuff, it's all networking, it's all who you know. And unfortunately, male to female ratio is a lot higher. And so you have to kind of manage that while you're trying to do your job, which is unfortunately it's very disappointing. But yeah, things like time, networking, finding time to network, finding time to do your things while making money and, you know, making rent. I've done a lot of work that's kind of just creative adjacent, where I'm still using my skills as an editor, but it's more about, you know, doing stuff for corporations that they need. So kind of majority of my work is working on things like that to pay my rent. And then on the side, kind of pushing in more and more, like through kind of like sideways, pushing in more of the art and pushing more of the films and photography and managing all of these things at the same time. I've also got just body limitations. Like film industry is very much like this idea of work hard, sacrifice, no personal time, no personal relationships. Like you're working 12-hour days and you should be happy to be doing this. And that's just not who I am. My body literally cannot do this kind of output. So that also comes into play if you're trying to work on big productions. It's just a mismatch of what I can do and what I'm willing to do and what the industry kind of demands of you as a person. I don't believe in that. I just don't believe in that kind of work ethic. I don't want to call it work ethic, because it's just kind of work exploitation to me. So those are kind of the challenges, that, you know, personal and your personal values and your and what you come up against. But at the same time, I still love doing it, and I still meet lots of amazing people through this work that I absolutely love working with, that I absolutely admire and try to change the industry, like the films like Last Orders and Hugo. Those were done with a company called Flyger Films, which are absolutely incredible women, and I just want to see more of that in the industry.
Are the people working for this company mostly women then?
Yeah, so it's set up by a woman called Katie, and she's kind of like the main producer of that, but she's also a creative, and she tries to employ as many women as possible on her projects, and she's incredibly amazing. I love her. She's like the best person I've ever worked with, and I just want to see more of that in the industry.
Do you think it made an impact with you, like going into this kind of filming jobs, working with females that are actually like welcoming to the industry? Because as you said, it can become very hostile in terms of who they let in, you know, like gatekeeping also like the gigs and the opportunities for newcomers especially.
I think the newcomer thing kind of comes across more again in male spaces, unfortunately, because very often, unfortunately, what happens is they see you, and if you're attractive, they will speak to you, but it's got that kind of undertone of like, and if you're not attractive to them, you're almost become invisible, and they focus on the male counterparts who sit right next to you. So that's more of when I see that happening. Whereas women are much more like open to kind of bringing more of us in and getting that kind of change happening in the industry to get more of that. Yeah, that's what I found, at least. Men very much like to stick together. That's just what I found in my experience, and it's hard to break out of sometimes. So it's just about like keeping networks up and kind of staying in touch with people as much as you can, but that can be quite challenging sometimes, especially after COVID times when everything went online and you kind of disappear from view. That can be very challenging.
Yeah.
In terms of my plans ahead, I'm kind of just wanting to do more photography, get back into it more. Like I said, I had that year out, and I just want to like put that behind me, do more stuff, expand my work portfolio, do more videos, do more events, do more photography, do more editing, just do more, because I just miss being in like the throes of it all. And just, I just want to stay true to who I am, respect my boundaries, respect my well-being, and not putting my health at risk in order to work. And trying to find that balance between working and well-being is kind of my main goal ahead, while just building my portfolio and getting more work out. That's so I can move away more from working as just a tool for corporations, and more moving then towards more art and more things that I'm really proud to show. Creating that balance of like, now 80% of my work is like doing things for money, 20% is doing things that I love. So I want to like start switching this balance to create more and more space for the things that I love and getting money from that. But I've managed to, you know, stay afloat for 4 years as a freelancer, which I think is crazy to me. Yeah, and I'm very comfortable and very happy where I'm at, even with the year out. You know, somehow I've managed through a crazy time in our lifetime, through COVID and everything. I'm very proud of what I've achieved in that time, even with all the hiccups. Yeah.
Do you think COVID sort of helped to your craft, like to your business, in terms of getting more remote kind of paid jobs?
Yeah, somewhat, because I started my kind of corporation work with that specific company that I work with during COVID, and they've moved a lot of this stuff offline, online as well. So like they used to shoot things in person in studios, and then they started just having people shoot stuff on their Zoom camera or their webcams, and then I work with that footage. So like everything became a lot more remote and a lot more accessible. And both the films that I've worked on, The Hugo and Last Orders, were remote as well. Obviously photography is much more in-person experience. Yeah. That's why most of the reason I went into more like as video editor, you can stay at home and do your own hours and be in your bubble. Yeah. So I really enjoy that part of it. So COVID really helped with that, but also COVID really helped with me being able to kind of, you know, have that moment to myself and break away with that kind of fear of like, oh, what's going to happen? I'm going to meet people at events and I'm going to have to like do this, do that. And kind of was like, okay, I have this time to myself to kind of figure out what I want to do and how I want to proceed moving forward. And it was a good break for me to kind of
just recollect.
Yeah, recollect.
Yeah, thank you. So where can we find you, Michalina? Where can people find you?
Yeah, so I have an Instagram called Mooncrane Video. I have a website called Mooncrane Video, and on LinkedIn, I'm just Michalina Kubiak. Mooncrane Video is very much just showing that photography work and just the visual parts of things, whereas on LinkedIn, I'm a bit more focused on the editing side professionally. So just depending what people are looking for. But yeah, if you go on my website or my Instagram and you see something you like, that's kind of the stuff that I do. And I do much more. It's just kind of like the opportunities and where I can do more of it.
Michalina, I'm looking at your website, if everybody has the link there. And I remember looking at the music video that you did. It's beautiful. Do you want to show a little bit about that, like a couple of seconds about that? Is that something you want? I can share my screen and show it if you want to.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
That was a music video I did for a band in Sheffield called Shelley Byron, and it was
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, it's okay. So I was just saying about the music video. There's for a band called Shelley Byron, and she's my friend. And I was just I heard her play that song on live, and I was like, I have to do that video because this is a song called "I Hope You Die." It's about a breakup.
It's beautiful. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
I don't know. Meet me in the sad cafe. Our conversation, we keep it lighter than snow. We gotta watch what we say. There are silences filled by glances. There are the times when we don't touch. I know you don't expect any more chances, and me, I don't expect too much. Couldn't you have found yourself when it would have made a difference? Glad to hear you're doing well, but now there's all this distance. Oh, you can get to hell for kissing me so well. Take a toaster in your back for the way you made me laugh. I could just shoot your stupid head for all the wonderful things you just said. Close your eyes forever. We will never be together.
Yeah, very moody.
And so talented. I love that. And also, I do remember speaking to you just when we were coming out from COVID, if you remember, about this poem that you read with. Do you remember about the poem?
Yes, I did a poem video for Nadia Iman. It was like a little challenge. It actually is on my website at the very bottom under personal projects. It was a video.
Oh, yes, I love
24
that
hours,
one.
12 hours. We did it in 12 hours. It was like a 1-day project from start to finish. We went out, shot it, edited it in 1 day. It was very fun. I really do enjoy that video. It's a beautiful poem.
And it's a short one, right? It's like 2-3 minutes. But when you go into Michalina's website, she's referring to this one. Is that right, Michalina?
Yes.
That's a beautiful one because it's a poem. I loved it.
How soul-destroying life was. This platform of train spotters all of us had become. When once in a while a holiday would whiz past, followed by a birth or a wedding, and then a trail of photographs to live vicariously through the good old days. But now it's just me, alone. We all are. Here in our tiny little boxes, watching life through tiny little boxes, staying still as the earth turns. A mighty vessel carrying us high speed to nothingness whilst we amuse ourselves to death. No identity without the world we left behind, no understanding of the growing earth outside. I see you there, at the other end of the phone, a touch away but miles apart, the dissatisfied ones. It's easier to live here, isn't it? To keep our heads down. Fleeting memories of 1,000 blank faces in overcrowded trains flying 70 miles an hour past unfamiliar places, towns our ancestors.
I'm going to stop there because I'm sure a lot of people want to ask a lot of questions to you. So thank you very much. I remember that poem because it was, just during COVID and how it moved me. And I still listen to it and go like, wow. And did you write the poem, Michalina? No, I think you're muted. You're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, that was Nadia's poem. So she came to me because it was for some project, or I can't remember what it was, but it was for some project that she wrote this poem and she wanted to make a video of it as well. So it is her poem. She's an amazing artist as well. So I just did the video where we worked on it together, and yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Michalina. Well, we have a few minutes if anyone from the audience has any questions that they would like to ask to our two creatives. This space is for that. I actually had one question while the rest of the people gathered the courage to pose any questions. So you both mentioned the importance of having like women networks around you, supporting your work, supporting your pieces. How do you find these female networks? How do you engage with them? Because I know that some people here were wondering how to start with trying to create art. How can they start, and where can they find these female networks that you found and they were so important in the development of your work? Either Andrea or Michalina.
Yeah, no, I can start. Yeah, I was, for me, it was just coincidence to find these girls in Eindhoven. I remember I posted something in one of these Facebook groups for expats, something about me being an artist, and then someone contacted me from there, and then we started chatting, and then we met, and I'm still in this community for, I don't know, 2 years, almost 3 years now. So for me, it was it was a coincidence. I wasn't specifically looking for this community, but I think every city has you can find the groups, this kind of groups, this kind of organizations. And I don't think it has to be just for women, and in my opinion, but supporting creatives and entrepreneurs, I think it's good to meet more people like this. But I found it on Facebook.
People are saying, well, if you want to suggest any Facebook groups that the the participants can join. If you have any, just feel free to drop them here in the chat so that everyone can look for them.
Yeah, I'm in expats in Eindhoven, but I know this. You can look on Facebook expats in, and then the city you're in, and usually you find this kind of groups or internationals in a specific city. So I'm in a few of these groups, and they're quite helpful. And you can also look for these groups for entrepreneurs or creative entrepreneurs, and then you can find something in your area. I don't know where you live. Yeah.
Thank you, Andrea. I don't
Also
know, Michalina.
Meetup, maybe.
Oh,
Yeah.
Where? Sorry.
On Meetup. It's an app. They organize, different groups can organize different events, so maybe it's also something interesting there.
Thank you. Michalina?
Yeah, for me it was always for me it also was a bit of a coincidence. The Fly Girl films, Katie, I met through a producer that recommended me to her, and we kind of just connected and went from there. It's mostly about like going out there, networking with people in real life. Obviously Zoom is also real life, but I think in person is very much powerful, and just finding these people at these events and just talking to them. I met lots of people through Innova. So yeah, I could do a much better job of like seeking out people more for sure. So I don't really have advice on Facebook groups or stuff like that. It's just, I just kind of fell into this, and I definitely need to grow my network a little bit more. I think what I've heard from people also say volunteering can be quite good, to kind of open up your network and meet more people, which is something I want to do this year a bit more.
Thank you. Does anyone in the room wants to pose any questions to our two creatives? I have a few questions on my own, but I want to give the space to someone else in case they have any questions. Let's see, you can just drop them in the chat if you have any comments. You both talked about, you know, that initial fear when you're about to engage with someone, with something, before starting and before deciding, well, this is what I want to do and this is like what I'm going to make a living of. You both mentioned that, like that fear, and I think it might be related to like this imposter syndrome that we all develop and we all feel at certain points. How do you deal with that, especially in the creative sector? Because I think, well, I'm not a creative myself, so I'm not sure how that works there. But how do you deal with it? How do you face that imposter syndrome and push through it in order to do what you do?
I can start. I don't. I just show up, and I try. Yeah, it is just kind of pushing through it. Just kind of like when you see an opportunity, don't say no. You know, say as much as possible. But yeah, I don't deal with the imposter syndrome at all. I have it every single day. Like I said, when I suddenly realized this year that I've been doing this for 4 years, what's happening? But I still kind of will undermine myself, be like, oh well, I have this one client that's really good to me, so that's all it is. And it's like, well, most people, not most people, but a lot of people don't have the opportunity to stay, you know, afloat for 4 years and do that. So I kind of I dig up myself all the time, but I'm just like, okay, just put it to one side, just focus on my work. So I think it's just kind of doing things despite, or sometimes in spite of it, just be like, you know, just developing your own relationships with these feelings and finding out what works for you, and having support from family and friends who are always like there to big me up and be like, no, what are you talking about? I tried being freelance and I've given up after a year. Like, what are you talking about? You're my hero. I'm like, what? What do you mean? So I think that support is really important from your loved ones.
Thank you. Andrea, do you?
Yeah, I also don't really have it so much. I have moments when I have it a bit, but I think in the past year at least, I managed to pass over it, because I what I do now, I feel comfortable and I feel like I can do it. I don't have this feeling that I'm not good enough or I'm not as good as I pretend to be. So yeah, I think I had it in the beginning when I started out with workshops, because I didn't know how to do it. So I was something completely new. Yeah, I'm quite confident in myself and in my skills. So of course I know I can get much better than I am now, but I'm good.
Yeah, I really like what you're saying about also like looking back at what you've done, because you've done more than you think you've done, right? You just sometimes forget about it, but then you look back, as Michalina was saying, or what as you were saying, Andrea, at first it was like it's a bit nerve-wracking doing something different or going for something that is not as traditional in terms of having a job, right? But looking back at what you've accomplished, I'm guessing that gives you a little push to say, well, you know what, I'm good, I can do this. Right?
Yeah.
Marina, I don't know if you have you had a question for them.
Yeah, I have for both of you. Maybe if I start with you, Michalina, what advice would you give to your younger self?
I definitely would want to like take up more space when I was younger. I think I'm quite introverted, so I get a bit timid sometimes, and I don't want to rock the boat too much. And I think if you ever worked in the film industry, you know it's about pretty much where you can show that you are kind of like how much you can tuck yourself up. And there's lots of people in this industry that kind of just a lot of talk and very confident people. And you work with them, you're like, oh, okay. So I think I definitely should take up more space and just be a bit less imposter syndrome. Give my imposter syndrome a lot less credit than I do, and just be less afraid to try things. And yeah, and one thing I will always say is like there's a gap between your style or like a taste and your skills. And then when you're in that gap between you start out and you're like your your taste is like, you know, here and your skill is over here, you just kind of like, how am I gonna get like, you know, how am I gonna get from here to here? But just kind of persevering through that and just practicing and doing more of things, because I think that all of my ventures ended very quickly because I was like, okay, I am here, this is what I want, and I'm just like, this is a big gap. And the major thing that happened in this last year is that I found out I have ADHD, and just giving myself more grace as a younger self, that I am not where other people are at, and that my brain works in its own ways, and comparing myself to other people and their journeys is pointless. Like everything happens at its own time, and you know, things will happen when they're meant to happen. For me, at least, that's what I believe. And just give yourself a bit more grace and take the learning opportunities as they come, and eventually the path will kind of, you know, pave itself.
Yeah, Michalina, it's so important, the voice of self-compassion, isn't that we could always need more of that. So thanks, Michalina, for that. Andrea, how about you?
Yeah, for me, I'm very sure it's marketing and business. So I should have, started learning this earlier, because basically until 3 years ago or so, I didn't know much about how to sell my work, how to promote my work, and all these things that are essential when you have a business. We don't really learn that in school, at least in architecture school. They don't really cover that. And also as an employee, in any kind of employee, you don't really need it so much. So I didn't learn it. And then I realized that I quit my job, and now I have to also sell my work. So then I started a few years ago. So yeah, I think that's, if I were to go back in time, I would pay more attention to try to learn more about marketing, sales, business, this sort of things. I think the skills, it's a natural thing. You practice, you get better, but like the marketing, at least for me, it's not something very natural, so I just have to learn.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
thank you. Well, I just dropped on the chat for everyone, if you can take 2 minutes of your time to complete just a short evaluation form for the event, we would appreciate that. Just just to close the event, I don't know if Michalina or Andreea, do you have any closing statements or something that we didn't discuss and that you would like to share with the audience before we close the session?
Yeah, I would like to add something. I know if there are people that follow us and they're creatives or they want to start doing something creative when like start a creative business, I think the most important thing would be to just share the work. And I think it's very hard in the beginning because as you were talking before with the imposter syndrome, you're thinking you're not really good enough to share it. But I think sharing it's very, very important because you also get more confidence. And yeah, if you ever decide to take it to the next step, you already have something in the back to show and to present. So yeah, I think that's essential, to just go out and share what you do to other people.
Thank you. Michalina?
I would just definitely second that. Kind of hiding doesn't really help. I think that's what COVID also helped me with, because I was like, well, I won't go out there and see these people in person. I will see my stuff, so I can just post these things and just pretend they don't exist. So that really helped me with putting things out that I wouldn't have otherwise. So definitely sharing stuff. I highly recommend that as well.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Today was the first session of our series of conversation entitled Food for Thought, Female Creatives at Lunch. So buen provecho, as we say in Spanish, to everyone there having their food. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Michalina and Andreea, for sharing your stories and for giving us the time today. Just a reminder, tomorrow we're going to have our first session in the UK. So that's 1 p.m. in UK time. That will be 2 p.m. Netherlands time. And next week, we will be conversating with 2 other female creatives on both Thursdays and Fridays. So yeah, we are very much looking forward to a month filled with art and female voices. Thank you all for joining us. Once again, we're just sharing the evaluation link here on the chat, and looking forward to seeing everyone tomorrow or next week then. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.